Well, and I just appreciate that you take the time to do this for your real estate agents. I know there's not really a benefit for you other than the more that you can help them produce, then hopefully they return, that favor back to you. But I really just want to start with I'll go through this presentation. I like to go through the why we're seeing the shifts that we are in marketing. I know everyone's been talking about the shifts just in the market and with interest rates, but there's really a demographic shift that I feel like no one's really paying attention to, as well as a lack of understanding of why we're seeing such a change in the way that people consume on social media and how they're using social media, which is directly tied to the demographic shift that we're seeing as well. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's hope that this works. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as you can see at the very bottom, look at all of those icons, all the different types of social media that you could be on. So these are all different mediums. They all work in different ways. Obviously, if you haven't heard of this newest one, Be Real, has anyone heard of Be Real? Maybe your kids have Be Real. I find it very interesting that it's going to a shift where when you use B-roll, you have a time limit. You have 2 minutes to be able to make a post, and there's no filters. There's no like later grams. So even though I'm on vacation right now, I happen to be in California. Usually I'm in Texas. I live in Dallas. So excuse the hotel room at the moment, but there's no later grams. Like you couldn't just be out of town, take some photos, and maybe wait to post on the weekend when it comes to B-roll. And there's really a shift going towards more authentic content, less over productionized media, because that's what makes it feel like people are actually connected to you. So that's where I'm going to start. And the reason why is because as things continue to shift, I want y'all to have new alerts going on so that you, after this, will know how to pivot and kind of watch the market just when it comes to creating your own content of what's going to be most valuable in the eyes of your consumers. Because I think people forget social media is meant to still be social. And there's ways that the algorithms, when they rank you based off your social score, they're looking, are you just posting and ghosting? And really ask yourself that, like when you go on social, do you just post and ghost and don't like, comment, or follow other accounts? Because I will say, and it's kind of a pet peeve of mine where I'll have clients, even just random people that I bump into. And of course, once they find out what I do, they'll ask me a whole bunch of social media questions. And they get so frustrated at their results because they think the results have to come from the vanity metrics, meaning likes, comments, and follows. When we're at a time, and this has really been since 2019, when the people who are liking, commenting, or even following brands has drastically decreased. So we just have to always keep things in perspective and in context of we don't need 100,000 followers or even 100,000 views. Like we need the right views at the right time from the right accounts to generate revenue. Because I have and for the record, guys, in case you didn't know, you can buy followers, you can buy likes, you can buy views. And I do have clients who, they used to claim that, they weren't bought. So they had over 100,000 followers and they don't realize people like myself, we have tech tools where we can detect and see how many were purchased, but they thought that that's what's going to give them credibility when it's not. It can actually cause you to lose trust. And so how do we use social media as a trust accelerator and as a magnet to the right types of accounts who are actually interested in either buying or investing or selling real estate in our market centers? So that's really the lens that I want y'all to focus on is don't get caught up in the numbers game and assume it's not working just because, you had 3 views, they were all family members and only one person liked it. So that means one person out of your family actually liked your post. But it is a long-term strategy and we're not all starting off at the same starting point. So that's my only other disclaimer is you can't compare your chapter 2 to say, like Todd mentioned in the beginning, my twin sister, the mortgage nerd, who's built a brand through social, and that's where a lot of her business comes from. She started this in 2012. So, part of your social rank score, which is very similar to a credit score, is based off your history. So you could be inconsistent for a few days, and if you have a lot of history, it's not going to ding your score quite as much. Very similar to what we tell people with credit. If you have very lean credit, like very immature, a couple pages, and you have one late payment, it drastically hurts your score. It's kind of the same way when it comes to your social rank score. So I want to talk about the three shifts that we've seen. The first shift was the end of lies. So in marketing, before we had, the FTC or any kind of regulations, you would see these bold claims that were like, lose 100 pounds by taking this pill, and people would consume, and then they would get frustrated because they would realize that, it wasn't true. And then we had the end of secrets, which is really when you saw, I put an example on here with McDonald's about as soon as blogging came about and the internet was rising, and we already saw that people were wanting, to buy HBO or even VCRs to fast forward through commercials. Like that known behavior of not wanting to be marketed to or sold to has always existed. But what we then started to see is you could manipulate perception and make it seem like maybe your restaurant was X, Y, and Z until that disgruntled employee or someone who worked for you would then expose and even make, a tweet about there actually were cockroaches in the chicken nuggets batter, and, we didn't make any change. So it was almost like this. Now that people could voice anything online, people would believe it to be true, or you would start to be exposed. And so, not that many of you have probably seen this documentary, and I don't know what this says about me, but if you haven't seen the Playboy documentary on Netflix, have any of y'all seen that? Like, just, it's very eye-opening of how Playboy and Hugh Hefner tried to make it seem that the girls were treated and how this was supposed to liberate them. And now that this documentary came out and it exposes what really happened and the amount of just trauma that occurred, but they would minimize it because, they had a perception that they had to keep. And now, kind of with Netflix documentaries and even the Murdoch murders, it's like all these things can be exposed where you can't just fake it till you make it anymore. Because there's somebody on your team where there's that client who may say something, and what do you have to compete with that one crazy review if you're not consistently posting on social? So some of this is to help control the narrative and protect your brand. And then some of it too is it's a volume game. You've got to be everywhere every day to get seen and flush out some of the noise. So end of lies is the first one. The days of being able to post whatever you want or have these bold claims isn't going to work anymore. Now there's regulations around it. The end of secrets, you can't pretend as if your experience is phenomenal or say that you do like annual asset reviews of every home that's sold if you don't actually do it, because someone out there is going to expose you. And now what we're seeing is kind of the end of control. And this is a new paradigm that I've been working with clients on, that yes, creating content in a systematic way that then you can distribute it backed by the analytics that you can actually get the exposure you want, doesn't mean that you always have to be the content creator yourself. So there's just little shifts that if you started to plant seeds with your own clients, like we know these next couple of years, we're probably going to see more first-time home buyers than ever. I mean, you guys already know most of the homes with mortgages today, in fact, 80% start with either a 2 or 3 or 4% rate. 63% of the mortgaged homes have a 2 or 3% interest rate. So like even one of the homes I have in Texas, I hate it. I hate the house. I hate the backyard. I bought it sight unseen. Could I turn it into a rental? Probably. But really, I'd like to just get rid of it. But I have 2.5% rate. So it's like, why are people going to be selling right now? And that's why we've seen a lot of the inventory challenges we have, is because people are sitting in their homes and they're like, I don't have a reason to sell unless it's divorce or, the typical reasons, birth, job loss, things like that. Otherwise, people are going to be staying in their homes. And so then we have to create content or focus on the new demographic that's coming in. And a lot of them are going to be the first time home buyers. They may be considering buying a home with a friend or learning more about house hacking or possibly having two jobs because they are concerned about finances. And so they do have a 9 to 5, but they also have a side hustle. And so creating intentional messaging around those demographics, like how you could qualify for a home with two incomes and what is needed for that, especially if they're self-employed, or things to consider when buying a home with a roommate or someone that you could be dating and you're not married, but we're seeing more and more of just friends going into buying a home because that's how they have to get their first, you know, entry into the housing market. So if you were to take one of them as an example, maybe they wanted, their motivation to buy was because they just wanted a backyard for their dog. Because statistics show people with pets, especially dogs, they will choose certain homes specifically for their pet. On the day of closing, you could go ahead and plant that seed like, hey, I would love to see a video of your dog running through that backyard for the first time, wagging his little tail all over the place because he finally has a backyard to run in. And that millennial or Gen Z will be able to take that video. It's going to be edited perfectly. It's going to have trending audio. And the goal is to have them post it and tag you because we're showcasing those magical moments of homeownership beyond just financial. Some of it has to be emotional too, where it's relatable because people make decisions twice, first in their head, and they've got to be able to visualize themselves. Do what? Did someone say something?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. No biggie. So I just want y'all to have a little bit of a paradigm shift that it doesn't always mean you have to be the only person creating content. You could create a process, and maybe that's you getting with escrow that as soon as they go to sign the closing documents, in room reads a room, if you go to your closings, you've trained them on how to capture video testimonials for you, which again, the whole goal is how do we start planting seeds even before closing day? And you could do like hashtag in between moments where they're documenting their journey and they're tagging you so that then you can borrow their following and their leverage trust, which grows your visibility as well. So any questions on that before I dive in a little bit deeper that maybe you guys have with the shifts? Any questions? And Todd, can you help me out because I won't be able to see all since I'm sharing my screen?
What's that? What's that?
Will you let me know if anything comes in through the chat that I need to address?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing popped. I mean, there's a couple questions for later, but yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing when you're creating your, personal brand or social story is why you and why do you matter? So that would be the first thing I would write down to get really clear on, because there's multiple facets of who you are. You could be a dad, you could be a sister, you could be into photography, whatever it is, but you've got to get clear on these two questions. And it takes some time to really answer thoroughly. I did put my QB, Tom Brady. I love Tom Brady, even though I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. But Tom Brady's a perfect example of how you can be a brand within the brand. So even though he was at New England, he still, it didn't matter. People still followed him, by the way, because they fell in love with him and kind of his personal brand that when he went to Tampa Bay and won again, his fans followed him. It wasn't just because he was at New England. And that's kind of the shift that we're seeing is the name on the front of the jersey, although it matters, but it's the name on the back causes people to fall in love with you and choose you to do business with. So you may work for Compass or, whatever your brokerage is. That doesn't define who you are. You still have got to be willing to showcase the brand within the brand. Now, that doesn't mean you have to share please don't share every personal thought that comes to mind. Gary Vee is a great example that a lot of people feel like they know him. But if you notice, he never shares anything about his kids, his wife, who now is his ex-wife, so now new girlfriend. You don't see any of those things about him. He shares his passion for wine and the New York Jets, but most of his media is him just documenting, him just being the content. He's not creating content. He's just being the content. It's the day in the life of what he does. And he takes little snippets. And when it's posted and it feels like it's behind the scenes material, it's not always, to educate and inform or to sell, so to speak. And that's where you'll get into different content pillars of how to strategically create like a 30-day footprint where you're selling enough, but also sandwiching in some of those behind the scenes moments where ultimately you're attracting an audience and a community who like you for the real you, which is the scariest part in today's world. Is it's never been easier to create a personal brand, but it's scary as hell because it now requires you to just be you. Like there's no more faking it, three-piece suit if that's not typically you. That's not what people want. They want the real authentic you, but it's scary because not everyone accepts themselves and don't want to put themselves out there because they worry about how they look and how they sound. And so some of those things is personal development that you're just going to have to get over. Like you can't, your business will not thrive in the future if you're not on the best piece of real estate, which is the phone, where most people spend their time. So we've got to just get over. And I have empathy. I'm not saying that in a mean way, but if you'll switch your perspective from you're creating content for others, and if that's your true motive, then you should be thinking of your ideal audience anyways, and how this message is going to impact them. And if you're worried about how you look or sound, then that's really ego getting in the way because you're thinking of yourself. So if you have to put a little sticky note somewhere and put an X over the E and just go and remove the ego game, it's not about you. You're not making content for you. It's for others. And if people don't like it, guess what? They can unsubscribe, unfollow. We don't need everybody to like us, right? We want to attract the people who would want to work with us for us. And there's plenty of them out there. And, I joke because when I was an originator, I had an identical twin. So same DNA, we look just alike, sound just alike, same area, same mortgage company, except I had 4 kids. She didn't have any kids yet. And when I branched off the team, I thought, how am I going to market myself? I literally have, and at the time, Denise had been in the industry for 10 years longer than I had. And she was like a celebrity. I mean, she's a massive producer. And I'm like, here I am. I was an ex-teacher, been doing origination kind of behind the scenes where a lot of people thought she was at multiple places at once. Like they didn't realize there was 2 of us, but we had access to the same programs. We're in the same area. I'm like, why would anyone want to work with me? Like they would probably just work with the nerd. And a lot of places I would go to, they would be like, are you the mortgage nerd? I was like, nope, I'm the bird. Here's my phone number. We'll go ahead and replace the application link and, all that as a joke. But it was really hard for me to even figure out why me and why do I matter when I share DNA with somebody who was so known. And so I almost played small. And it wasn't until I finally like just busted through my cage a little bit. Sean heard a little of this story, I think, when we were in Tennessee. But I finally just was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to be me. And I know it's very different than my sister in a lot of ways. She's a little bit more conservative. I like to color outside the lines a little bit and sometimes, use certain language that is never meant to be offensive, but we were raised by Yankees. And so that's my excuse anyways. And so until I accepted who I was and just kind of stayed true to that and showed up and posted my sense of humor, I actually had more people reach out and want to do different brand deals or say, we actually like this better. Like we'd rather you just be who you are. And that whole sense of me living a lie and feeling like a fraud, because truth be told, although I was good at mortgages and made a lot of money, it's not what I loved to do. I loved building businesses for different affinity partners who brought us income, like divorce attorneys and CPAs, financial advisors. But if I had to be behind a desk and analyze a Schedule C tax return with like multiple Schedule E's, I would rather gouge my eye out. So the whole point to this is developing a personal brand. Again, it's that name on the back of the jersey so that you don't have to reduce your commissions, or so that as soon as you do go on that listing appointment, you've already done a lot of that typical Ford. You guys have probably heard with the sales acronym. It's like we've got to be able to build trust before we even get the at bat. And that's what we're seeing is although most real estate agents, according to NAR, are still getting their business from referrals. This new demographic, like the millennials and Gen Zs, and I feel like I can say this since I'm a very old millennial, but we need a lot of validation. Like we are constantly looking at reviews, looking at Yelp. Like we don't just take someone's word for it and buy. And especially when it comes to real estate, because I think most people forget that, especially the millennials, they were kids during the housing crash. So their parents were starting to have more difficult conversations with them of like why they were losing the home possibly, or, maybe they had lost their job, etc. So they're more financially literate, ironically, than the older demographics. They just don't have any money to save because they also carry the largest amount of student loan debt. But their financial IQ, they are a little bit more savvy, and they're just not super trusting of real estate or mortgage professionals because again, they're going off of their last known experience, which could have been the housing crash. So you better believe as soon as someone refers you, like say I'm giving Sean's information, that they immediately are going to go online. They're going to scroll for a couple feet. So if I were to land on your Instagram and scroll for a couple feet, which I may never like or follow your account because that would be creepy, right? And again, I'm worried about validation. I don't want to look like I'm creeping on you. I just want to be able to creep and judge you. So I want all of you to write down this second step of homework is to just land on your social media, and let's start with Instagram, and scroll for a couple feet. And I want you to ask yourself, how does my social media make people feel? First feel, then think. Because people buy with their hearts and they justify with their brain, with logic. But they're going to judge you based off these two factors, and that's warmth and competency. Like, can I trust you? Are you going to protect my self-interest? Are you teaching me so that I know, like once I meet with you or another agent, I know if you're BSing me a little bit, because again, they're very skeptical, but you don't even know how many at bats you could be losing because the moment they go to look you up on Instagram and there's nothing there, or there's hardly any post, or maybe nothing about your closings or anything like that, what happens is they create this story in their head and they're like, maybe Todd got out of the business. Like I know interest rates went up and inventory's been down. It's been really tough. Just heard on ABC News, San Diego's a market that's going to be most like the 2008 housing crash. Like maybe they got out of it. And they create these stories because there's no narrative that your social media is filling that gap for them. And so if you can just remember that what influences people's decisions, there's four main things that are going to influence their decision at whether or not, like my dad may have given me your name and number, but based off social media, it doesn't look like you're still in business. And as I'm scrolling and I type in San Diego Realtor, I find somebody else. Like I had seen, I think her name was Nicole Klein with Compass, because I was looking at some San Diego stuff. She had a great presence. She was on YouTube. She had just done a February 2023 market update, which was very informative. She comes across as a professional, easy to talk to. So yeah, I would likely then probably hit contact. And so I really want y'all to protect your own narrative and your own brand while also turning up the notch on creating more content so that you can have the power of what a brand can do for you no matter where you work or no matter where you go. I mean, you may end up having expansion teams across the US. And so how are you trickling this down so you can dominate any market? So that's the importance of having a brand. Otherwise, if you're just, if no one's willing to pay for your services above the minimum, like these, iBuyer deals, and if you can't compete with that, then you really probably don't have a brand or a reputation. And some of you may have to reposition your reputation. I mean, I get that question a lot from clients where they're like, what kind of ROI can I get? Like, what could you guarantee me? And I'm like, I can't guarantee. First of all, I don't know your scripting. I don't know your speed of lead. Do you have a CRM? Do you have a process that incubates and nurtures people that contact you? What's your current reputation in the market center? I mean, we may have to do some damage control with some of this. And that may be some of you on this call and know that that's okay. But you can't BS it anymore either. Like you can't pretend like you have this magical, experience and process for your clients, or, just because you rent a Lambo and a yacht and take a picture, and all of a sudden now you're a luxury real estate agent when you just got your license 2 weeks ago. And you guys know who I'm talking about. There's those people that like rent the Lambo and they take photos and they're like, I'm a luxury agent. And you're like, no, you're not. You rented that and you don't know anything about the luxury market, but perception's reality, right? So there is no other story. There's no one to tell the truth of that. Then people will believe it. And so if you're not willing to do that and put yourself out there, maybe because of fear, or maybe it's know-how, then just know you're telling your audience to go buy, follow, and learn from somebody else simply because you weren't willing to put yourself out there. So we can't have that, not for this market. Okay, so breaking down your social media kind of systematic process, like how do you approach this? A lot of people always ask, I don't even know where to begin. Or maybe you've been posting, but you've realized, like just with Instagram Reels, there's been an oversupply of Reels, and largely that's been due to last year Instagram converted any IGTV, which used to be the longer form video content. They made all of the prior videos, they converted them to reels. So you may see on your feed some wonky like layouts where your cover page doesn't fit anymore. That's because Instagram, and anytime they roll out new features or updates, it's a slow, gradual process to different accounts in different parts of the region. But there was an oversupply for some period of time with the reels. And like anything, as soon as people figure out what's working, especially marketers, we're at fault, we overdo it. And you see people trying to like even trick the system where they knew reels were, the thing to do to get new followers. But so they would, put a picture and make it look like it's a video. And, it was all just in working of the algorithm. So how do we play with the algorithms, but also stay true to being really clear of who we're trying to attract into our sphere? You have to have a strategy. And, your social media strategy needs to align with your business strategy. So what's the purpose here? What's the bigger why? What's the vision? Like, what does a successful social media campaign mean to you? And what does it look like? If it's just based off followers, then go spend $50 and go buy 50,000 followers. But if it's really to make impact and to attract people to your account, and you're willing to invest in the long-term strategy game, that's the difference between having a branding campaign and brand equity versus direct marketing. Direct marketing is like leads and lead forms. That's running ads. It's really difficult to measure brand equity. It's like, how do you measure love? What's the unit of love? You really can't measure it.
Deborah, can I just jump in real quick?
Huh?
So we kind of took a break in January, as you know, because of our company switch.
Yes.
But since we turned everything back on in February, just to give you an idea, we got our Instagram business notification this morning. Our accounts reach was up 42%. Our accounts engaged was up 42.6%. And which you don't care about is the followers piece was only up 0.9%. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is reiterate your point of what you're saying, Deborah, is that you guys, by using, I'm just giving you a plug here as well, but by using you guys, this is what happened just between January and February.
Well, and so let's start with that. Regardless if you're creating content, all of you can implement the winning by noon strategy. And I still use Win by Noon. If you guys haven't heard of Win by Noon, they have a real estate edition and a loan officer edition. I know it's kind of old school because it's a planner, but there is a social media edition, and it has these little checkbox of what you should do every morning before noon in order to kill it in real estate. And they break it down with different theme days. But every morning I tell my clients, you should like 20 different accounts, 20 different posts. You need to like their accounts. You need to comment on 20 different posts. So you could do this really easily where If you haven't set up your favorite speed, and Todd, I'll send you my YouTube video of how to set up your favorite speed on both Instagram and Facebook, because a lot of people don't know you can change your feed view to favorites, and nobody knows if they're in your favorites. So, like for Todd, I would have in his favorites all of you, people that could potentially send him business. So, as a real estate agent, who could you have in your favorites feed? I would look at who have you done business with that has a high influence score. Maybe they're that stay-at-home mom that's in every Facebook group that anytime someone asks for a real estate agent referral, you know that this person is on all those social channels. Maybe it's divorce attorneys, like you targeted the attorneys in your area. Maybe it's OBGYNs, because statistics show when people have, bless you, I don't know who that was that just sneezed. I think Lindsay. I just saw her do this. I didn't hear. The OBGYNs, we know when people are expecting their first child, they're more likely to buy a home versus like their fourth. And those of you with multiple kids, by the time you have your fourth one, you're just shoving them in a closet anyways. But like, what are the different people that could be your annuities of income that if you set in a favorite speed, now I can be intentional with my time and I can use social media instead of what most people, even on this call, probably, you guys are allowing social media to use you. Because I have a lot of agents that will tell me, I just don't have time. How do I run a team and create content and do these likes and do the comments? I don't have time. And so a good practice, and I only know how to do this on the iPhone, and you guys could do this with me right now. In fact, Todd, I want you to do it with me. You're going to be my guinea pig. If you guys go to settings, do you have an iPhone, Todd?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're about to call Todd out right here live. Go to your settings. And you're going to scroll down until you see the green icon that says battery. And you're going to tap on battery.
Yep.
Okay. Then I want you to tap on where it says last 10 days. It's on the right above the graph. Go to last 10 days.
Yep.
Now scroll down and see where it says average screen active.
Mm-hmm.
What does that time say?
7 hours, 7 minutes.
That is the average amount of time in the last 10 days you have spent on your phone. Don't do this to your spouse, by the way. It'll cause fights. But now I want you to tell me, what are your top 3 apps as far as a percentage underneath that?
Instagram is 18%.
Okay.
Mail is 11%. And Safari is 10%.
Okay. So most of your activity from your 7 hours of active time a day, guys, the phone and social media has replaced TV. In fact, the average person in America spends 7.5 hours on all digital media. Digital media is more than just social media. That includes podcasts, YouTube, streaming. But this is the best piece of real estate to be on. And look, it shows just for Todd, and I won't have anyone else call themselves out, but his number one app that he's on a day is Instagram. So are you just a consumer on social and allowing the algorithms to use you where they know it's like little puppets, guys. They know exactly and in what order and what they're going to show you, because all the platforms are trying to just feed that addiction so that you stay on their platform the longest. If your Instagram or Facebook or TikTok is in the top 3, my question to you would then be, is that because you're using it for prospecting time in the mornings? Like, are you going through your favorite feed and you're liking and you're commenting and you're following new accounts and you're wishing your friends happy birthday? Are you using it for prospecting, or are you allowing it to use you? Because don't tell me you don't have time if it shows that you're using or you're on social media for majority of the day. You guys get what I'm saying with this? And some of you may be team leads and may have to have this conversation with even your agents on your team, because everyone always complains they don't have time. I call BS on that. We do have time. We use this thing as a distraction instead of a tool for our business. So how do we use it for more of a tool? All of you can set up a favorites feed, and in one morning poo session, you could do 20 likes, 20 comments, and 20 DMs. I like to do those as story comments. So anytime you see, in fact, you guys may wonder if you're on Instagram or Facebook and you see on the stories, you may be like, why do I always see the same people on my story feed, when I'm following 5,000 people. That's because those people at the top are those that you've interacted with the most. So this is how you get your content seen in front of those priority partners who could send you business or have high influence scales, rankings. This is how you trick the system to see that you guys have a relationship, because social media is still based off interest, but also relationship, where now you could be the person constantly showing up for them in their feed simply because you are committed to doing 20 DMs a day, 20 comments, 20 likes, and I would follow at least 5 to 10 new accounts every day. If you used a system like this and you tracked that number for just 30 days, in fact, I do a 75 hard challenge, which is meant to be hard. If you've ever heard of the 75 hard workout challenge, I have a social media challenge, and it's meant to be difficult, but it does pay off. The results are there. And part of your brand exposure and reach doesn't always have to be from you creating content. It could just be someone sees that you've liked or commented on an account that they also follow. Or if you're at a restaurant and you should always tag location. Always tag the location that you're at, unless you're, traveling and you don't want that. That's how some people could find you. Like I'm here traveling now, I'm at Newport Beach, and maybe I'm trying to find restaurants to go visit. And the amount of people who use TikTok and Instagram in the social search feature, where they're actually using it almost like a Google search. They go to that magnifying glass and they're typing in, top restaurants in Newport. And then they click on the restaurant. And when you click on the restaurant, it'll show you anyone who's ever tagged that restaurant in your feed. You could be found that way, because it just so happens I may be looking to buy a second home here, or an investment property, or a short-term rental. You can get seen by tagging location, by using certain audio, by hashtags. Hashtags work a little bit differently than they did in the past, where it's meant more for it's kind of like an index, I'd say. It's less on prioritizing content and more on categorizing your content. The days of doing 30 hashtags, or don't do that. You probably need at max 5 to 7. And I would do some that are more branding related, location related, and then very specific to your post that you've created.
Deborah, how should they
Yes.
do it? How should they do it towards reels? Like, how should they make their reels pop up more currently?
Well, so there's 4 different algorithms on Instagram and Facebook in regards to reels. Know that when you are posting reels, naturally that algorithm is meant to go in front of more people who aren't already following you. So there's no like or trust factor. The reels that are killing it in real estate right now, getting the most exposure, because again, it's still based off interest. So it's still only going to be shown to those who show based off their history that they are currently interested in real estate in this area. So that's where you have to be realistic on your context of like pool of people, where like I could make a personal development post and 100,000 people may see that, because the pool of people interested in personal development is much larger. So make sure that you just for context, like how many people are actually interested in buying real estate right now? Because and I say that because there's 5,300 posts every second that you're competing with. So why would the algorithms push yours in front of somebody else's based off interest?
Jim Dupree just asked, just so you know, are reels more productive, or are reels more productive with hashtags?
Yes. Because remember, hashtags are meant to tell the algorithm how to categorize your content. There's also a new thing where you can add topics. So whenever you post your next reel, look for where it says topics, and you can scroll down. You can only choose 3 topics. All of these things are signals that tell the algorithms what your feed is about, that piece of content, so that they can then show it to those who are interested at the time. So doing home tours of like, this is what $4.3 million home can get you in Del Mar. Those types of real estate reels are killing it because people are interested. Or here's what average list price in Santa Monica gets you today in March, first week of March of 2023. It's those interest-based, anything that's in reels. Just so you guys know, there's templates in Instagram. If you open up your Instagram app and you click on, you have to do it from, click your profile picture on the bottom right when you're on Instagram. And if you click the plus icon and click Reels, you'll see at the very bottom, you can move it over to templates. And guys, these are all possible templates that you could use where it'll automatically take your media that you add and it'll sync it to the music and it will do some of these cool edits for you that you don't have to do yourself. If you've never used templates or if you've ever been on Instagram Reels, and you could just scroll. Like, this is where consuming on social, you could be using it for prospecting or for different ideas with creating your own content. But if you go to Reels, so again, if I go back, I'm going to hit the home button on Instagram and I click on the Reel icon and I scroll, and you may see, like, here's one that's real estate. At the very bottom, it says use template. I could literally take this chick's template and upload my own media for my camera roll, which could be photos or videos. It'll automatically trim the length where it needs to trim, and it will add the trending audio. And you know it's trending audio in the bottom where it shows the music. If there's an up arrow, that's trending audio. So all of this is just from me consuming on social, and I see if I happen to have a real estate, reel show up on my Explore feed, I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, why is it showing it to me? And then if it has a template that I'm going to use that template so that you don't have to always send your content to like an editor. These are little tricks that you can use where it doesn't have to have your face in it, but it's also going to be something that obviously is being shown in front of you. So it has the training audio and it has some of those edits for you. But to Jim, to your point, yes, I would use hashtags. Don't go crazy on them, but think of it more of, if is that real showcasing for a home seller, an open house, a home buyer? Like, you need to compartmentalize your hashtags to help create the signals for the algorithms to know who to push that piece of content out to.
Is our Reels better than posts?
So Adam with Instagram recently announced, Adam's the chief of Instagram who constantly posts updates. He has said that it's going back to favoring more photos as a photo sharing app. So that, and getting away from video, he acknowledges that they got too obsessed with video. This is Meta, who owns Facebook and Instagram. They are doing anything they can to compete with TikTok at the moment. TikTok has stolen quite a bit of attention and they are hemorrhaging. So they are putting more emphasis on photos, but if you keep reading the fine print, it does say, but ultimately they are going to show people the type of content based off their prehistoric behaviors that they like to consume. So you have to have a cocktail, a mixture of content. You can't just be one or the other. In the days of just doing talking head reels, people are kind of done with that. They've seen, like, it's the same types of video edits and it's the same topics that if you can find on a Chat GPT search or Google search, then people are going to be able to get that information out quicker. You need to have some of those home tours or those scissor reels of any of those luxury properties that you happen to be able to walk, or any new listing that is in your area that you're farming. You should go walk that property. But you can't just do reels. You've got to have some of the carousel posts, some of the graphics that are meant for visual learners, because not everybody wants to hear you talk, unfortunately, or they're not in a position to always hear you talk, which is why, yes, you need to have the closed captions on every video. But if I had to theme the days, I would say Mondays, make that your market update. Like, and the first Monday could be a certain, like Del Mar. The second Monday, maybe Newport Beach. The third Monday, some places, like, I don't know y'all's areas like you do, but maybe there's certain areas, certain counties that you could talk about average list price, average days on market, and just be consistent with every Monday's a market update. Tuesdays, I would make more strategic, more informational, like walking a property. This is what to look for, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, and say the doors aren't latching up when you're closing, or anything that could come up on an inspection report, or buying on this side of the street versus this side of the street. This is where There's going to be a difference in taxes, but it's more real estate strategy, benefits over time. This is why it's important. You could even have interview Todd and talk about a seller buy down. This is how we're solving the home affordability issue, because we know that that's the biggest challenge for buyers today. One is there's not a whole lot of homes available on the market, but we're most likely going to be heading back into a multiple offer situation or above list price. So a year ago at this time, going 100,000, 200,000 over asking at a 2.5%, 3% rate didn't hurt as bad as it does at a 6.5% rate. So again, Tuesdays make it a little bit more strategic on how your experience matters. Because anyone can fill out a contract, but why does it matter to work with you? Wednesdays, I'm a big believer in hosting your own show. Seth O'Byrne is someone that does a great job with this. He's out of Arizona. If you got really good at every Wednesday, say at noon.
He's actually out of San Diego.
Seth O'Byrne?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. I was thinking of Jason Mitchell for some reason. I'm about to see both of them on Thursday. I don't know why I was thinking of it too. I just spoke to Jason yesterday. So he does a really good job with his content and his videos, and people like to see that type of content because now he does pay for video editing and a lot of them are polished, but he's interesting, but he's also interested. And there's that fine line of you've got to be interesting and understand that most people, they interact with beautiful real estate. They love seeing that, but they also like humor. So memes go a long way on social. Also, because social is still an escape activity for most people. That's where they're going when they just don't want to think sometimes. That's why TikTok really took off. Although I will say Facebook Reels have really been dominating. They've been performing better than TikTok and Instagram Reels. So if you're not using Facebook Reels, any piece of vertical content that you're creating should be repurposed everywhere. And I do have a social media tool that helps solve that challenge where you make one post and it'll go to all platforms: YouTube Shorts, TikTok, LinkedIn, Google Business, Pinterest even. I mean, that's a way to get everywhere every day, but only having to do it once. So I do have a tool that will read your analytics, and it'll also auto post based on the type of post to make sure that it's being posted at the right time with the most amount of eyeballs. So Todd, you can always send that out if anyone's interested. It's a flat fee. It's unlimited accounts, unlimited posts. So it's definitely
Caroline's asking what's the name of the tool. So
if you go to my Instagram plug, and which y'all should all follow that anyways, because I give updates and there's lots of updates coming out this week of Twitter and Facebook. That's the challenging part, guys, is everything we speak about today. If you're not a student of marketing, it's almost like Todd when he studies interest rates and he's constantly having to watch the market. As soon as you figure out the algorithms, they're going to change them up again because they want to pay for ad spend. So it's make sure you're following plug_and_play_SM on Instagram. You spell out the and. SM is meant for.
Katie will send that out to all you guys too. So you guys can follow it.
If you click that link in the bio, that's where you can access the scheduling tool. I also have several a lot of the YouTube videos are unlisted where they're not public, but Todd gets every Friday. If you're not on Todd's email list, or maybe Todd, you send your next 2 referrals to Todd, y'all make that commitment. To me, I can say that. It's not a RESPA violation if I say it, but he paid for me to be here and to have this time with you guys. He really wants to grow your business. The least you could do is, I always say send your next 2, because the first one could just be easy and he gets lucky. So make him, earn his stripes for that. But every Friday I send out a YouTube video, and it's a little tutorial of how to do Instagram Reels, how to edit your cover pages, how to make sure they fit, how to find trending audio, how to do the duet and stitch feature on TikTok. And it's me showing my keystrokes where it's almost like I'm coaching you over your shoulder in your room so that you can pause and you can try to do it yourself. But I do it bite-sized pieces every Friday as kind of a curriculum to keep everybody on the bus at the same time, because it's constantly changing. So, if I had to tell you which platforms would I focus on, YouTube, because it's owned by Google. Hands down, if you don't have a YouTube channel, get a YouTube channel. and you need to put all the reasons of why someone would be selling in your area and buying in your area. If you just did a search of moving to San Diego and you see what videos pop up, you can redo those videos, but do them better. Okay. But you need to be on YouTube, and I would do YouTube Shorts, which is the same thing as TikTok or Instagram Reels. I would make that a priority. Then I would focus on Instagram, and I say Instagram / Facebook because those I consider as one. If you don't have the professional mode turned on to your personal Facebook profile, a lot of people don't know that you can turn on professional mode. And that just reveals how Meta is desperately trying, like they are now allowing you to make money off Reels, even on your personal profile. It gives you different insights and analytics. You can't run ads yet, and you can't pre-schedule on a personal profile. But Facebook is realizing that more and more people use their personal profile for business too, and they're trying to pay content creators to create better content so that they can keep people on their platform because
Can
they're
you
losing.
can you teach it to show everybody how to turn on their professional? Because when you did that for the last presentation you did for us, all of a sudden was like, wow.
Yes, I have a YouTube video that I could put in the link if that's easier because people may want to pause, stop, like,
That'd be great.
and you may want to share it with your team as
Yeah.
well if you guys have a team of people. And Todd, for those people who send you their next referrals, you could add them every Friday when I send you your coaching email. You could just take that YouTube link and you could send it to this group consistently until maybe we could do this again in about a month. Let some people go back, do some homework items on maybe using Instagram Reels templates and get used to creating content, maybe doing your market updates every Monday and your strategy post every Tuesdays. And we could meet again in about a month and go through what were some sources of friction for you as you went to implement. Like, did y'all stay true? Did y'all all make the commitment for the next 30 days to do the 20 likes, 20 comments, 20 story comments? And are you tracking and measuring on what that's doing? Did you set up your favorites feed? Did you set up your YouTube channel? And then if you get my scheduling tool, now you can have an assistant even upload your content, write a caption, and it'll go to all social media channels, Facebook groups, Facebook pages, LinkedIn, Google Business. Again, even though you may not consume on Twitter or Pinterest, I opened up my insights on Pinterest. I had over like 150,000 impressions, and I don't even use Pinterest. But my content's getting seen and it's not taking up any more of my time because I'm using a tool that's putting me everywhere every day when there's the most amount of eyeballs for the moment they start to consider needing social media support. And that's how you guys need to think, is it is a volume game. Like no one even knew who Brad Lee was, and you may not know who Grant Cardone until they started producing volume.
So can you do us a favor?
Yes.
So we're gonna wrap up here because you got 4 minutes and you're on
Got
vacation.
Yes.
So can you send out your how to set up your favorites feed
Yes.
on YouTube to Katie, and Katie will send it out to the group.
Okay.
How to set up your professional, and we'll send it out to the group. And then one last question we got for you is, what are your thoughts regarding LinkedIn for leveraging for B2B community?
So I think LinkedIn is a underrated place to get great business from other professionals. If you're not on LinkedIn, I would put that as like number 3 or 4 on the list because I would prefer for you to at least nail down and build out your YouTube channel because Google owns YouTube, so you want that search history. But I think LinkedIn is not oversaturated. It's just a little bit different on your message architecture of, what you put on TikTok isn't going to work on LinkedIn. It's just a different breed, but it's where a lot of professionals are. And if you're looking to incorporate more referral sources like divorce attorneys or financial advisors, like life insurance agents are a great source. In fact, on a 1003, on a mortgage application, there's even a life insurance section. So there's easy ways to refer deals to them, and they can refer a lot of deals to you. Self-employed, like a lot of these really wealthy people know, like even myself, I don't like to pay taxes. So anything I can do to take advantage of cost segregation, Sean, you know all about this. I just joined Be Wealthy Mastermind because I'm hoping to learn even more of like where can I put my money so I don't have to pay taxes. Oh, that sounds awful, but it's just the truth. I've employed my 4 kids. I'm like, you guys are now employed. Yeah, because it's tax write-offs, but it's a serious challenge for a lot of self-employed people. And there's a lot of people who recently moved from California to Texas. We called it, for some reason it could be political. Yeah, there's a lot of, and it's cheaper, obviously, to live in Texas, but there's a lot of people who want to buy second homes and condos where y'all are at. So what content are you creating? The content focus, if you want to get more views and get seen, has got to be valuable to the pain points of your target audience. And those pain points today are a little bit different than what they were even just a year ago. So what is going to cause people to sell right now, especially if they're sitting on a 3% interest rate? It's usually life events. And then what's going to cause someone to want to buy? Like when I saw Sean's video on this about Super Bowl, typically this time of year in spring home buying, we start to see a little bit more activity. It doesn't show true from the first week, and this is just national data of inventory, which fell 2.5% last week, which usually we see these numbers increase, but it's because buyer demand is still outpacing, even though rates are a little bit higher, the buyer demand is outpacing inventory. But we have daylight savings coming up on Sunday, so that gives more hours for people to shop for homes where people are going to be more excited to and they're realizing home prices aren't falling. Like there is no crash. There's no sign of like a surge of inventory coming to the market. There's predictions with possible recession and job loss, but I think people who were sitting on the sidelines thinking I'll just wait for the crash, they're realizing home prices aren't coming down and it's not getting any easier. So I'm going to get my butt off of renting. I'm going to seriously look at options of how to buy and things like seller buy down to help solve home affordability, gifted funds, grant programs. Those are the types of messages I would be sending out because that is the current need based off today's market. Everything you go to post needs to run through that filter.
Well, Deborah, we will schedule you for the next 4 to 6 weeks if people want to have a follow-up. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your holiday in Newport Beach and kill it in Vegas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for coming. And we did record this. And so if you do want a copy of the recording, please send Katie an email and she'll send it out to you and we'll get it over to you ASAP, as well as those little tips and tricks that Deborah said she'd put together. But again, thank you everybody for coming.